Hey guys, Matty Ice here. We're doing a little kind of demo here on how to disassemble a PlayStation 3. I noticed this one is, I've had this since, 2008, 2009. I've never really had it apart. The thing's about 10 years old right now. It's one of the fat models. This is going to be model number, let's flip her over. Yeah, this is September 2008. You guys can see that there. So this is one of, not the launch ones, but this is, in the first run. And it's model number CECHK01. When you're taking these apart, you will need yourself a T10 style bit, and it should be the security bit. As you can see, the one I'm using here is not a security. I can't focus on it. It's not a security bit. This is just a standard one. Securities will have a hole drilled in the middle. Now, I've worked around this before and figured out how to take out the security bits. There's only one on here that's needed for, so it's not that big a deal. And then you're going to need yourself like a flathead and 2 Phillips. Usually like a micro one, and then just standard number 1 or number 2 will work for the rest of the screws on here. Now, first things you got to do, unplug it obviously, and then turn it off. Leave it in the off position, and then you flip her onto this side. 2 things are going to come off here. First, we need to open up this plastic door right here. It just pops open, just like that. Right here we have our hard drive. Now the hard drive will come out. It's hard for me to see what I'm doing. Okay. And this is just a little screwdriver that I had from working on my PC. Okay, once you remove that, you can either use a flat screwdriver to pop this up right here so you have something to grab onto, or you can kind of just tip this over and it'll literally come out if you pull. And there's your hard drive. Little Seagates, laptops, these can be replaced real easily if you have a hard drive issue. Okay, and once that's out, there's your empty bay. And next thing you have to do, as you can see, this is where the warranty sticker is on your units. If you open this up at all, you void your warranty. This thing's like 10 years old, so I don't have a warranty left on this. So let's pop her open. We just pull out this little rubber grommet right here. Now this next part I already did, and I actually lost the bolt, so I can't show you guys. I forgot to turn on the camera and start filming. Now this is where, if you look in here, that little security bit will be. Now if you don't have a security bit, you don't want to go out to Walmart and pay $3 or $4 for a screwdriver that you're going to use one time. What you can do is turn it from a security bit into a normal one. Now you might ask, how do you do that? Well, what I did was I lined this up with a drill, and I drilled out just the very center with a pin, where the pin is, very slowly. And then once it started going, I etched it out. Now don't worry if it wobbles off a little bit, because after a certain period of it wobbling, you can go on there with a standard Torx T10, and then I was able to take it out. It took less than a minute. So that's kind of a little workaround. All right, after that, you're going to move all your stuff around, and then all that security bit does, it's the only one in the entire system for the fat right here. All it does is hold on this top cover, and then slide that towards you, pops off. You can see I didn't actually even know this was actually, like translucent there. Okay, and now it's just pretty much a series of removing screws. I pretty much wanted to check in here and make sure everything was all right. It felt like it was getting extremely hot compared to what it used to. So it's going to be removing a series of screws with standard Phillips. You've got one in the corner, you got one here, one in this corner. Then we've got another one down here, 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 and then we have the last one in the corner. Now, you might be wondering about positioning. They're all the same size, and they have arrows indicating where they need to go. The only one that's not is this one in the corner right here, and you can see there's a little S there. That stands for short. The short one will be the only one that's short. The rest are all the same length. All right, guys, I'm going to put you on pause for a minute while I take all these out. Okay, we're back, guys. I got all the screws out, and I just wanted to show you. Here's that Torx I was telling you about. I did find it. And as you can see on the center of this, I did kind of drill that out. The pin is no longer there. And don't worry about if you kind of round it out a little bit. I mean, as you can see, I kind of rounded slightly. As long as there's enough left for the teeth on this screwdriver to engage, you're fine. And like I said, see, it still sits in there perfect. You don't have to worry about rounding it out. Just make sure you don't select too large a drill bit. So that's, just a quick way around that if you don't want to screw around with the security bit. Okay, so here's all our screws. As you can see, we've got long ones over here. Those came out of all the other ones that weren't marked S, and then here's our S one. And you can see you're not going to mix them up. There's a huge difference. Okay, so next part will be actually removing this top cover right here. This is going to be over top right here. We're going to have the power supply, and then our drive is going to be immediately underneath. So popping this off, if you haven't done it before, it is a little bit of a chore. You kind of have to release a plastic tab over here, and then kind of like pushes and pulls. It's not easy. You can kind of see there's that plastic tab right here, and then there is another one kind of like hiding over here that if you kind of like angle it correctly, it will come off. But it's kind of just a feel thing. I mean, you'll feel it start coming up when it's ready to go. And it's really hard to do this when you don't have eyes on it. Gonna work your way around too. Sometimes that helps. Loosen it up. There we go. There we go. So as you can see, I was picking up right here and pushing on this and kind of worked my way over. Okay, off comes the cover, and you can see in there, here's front of the unit, disk drive, and then here's where your CDs are coming in, or your Blu-rays, and then look at all that dust in there. This thing is filthy. We're definitely going to give this thing a good cleaning. Alright guys, we're inside. Here's the goods on top. Now, Fat PS3's, the fan is all the way on the bottom. So if you want to get to that fan to do any type of work, you got some work to do. You're going to have to dig down here pretty deep. Disk drive right here, and this is the power supply. Now, it's a good time to, kind of work through this thing and clean her up. As you can see, mine hasn't been opened in years. It is filthy in here. So I'm going to pause you guys, and we are going to come back after I disconnect this little cable right here. We're also going to take out some screws. I'll come back and show you which ones I've taken out, and we'll continue this video. Okay guys, so another thing I wanted to show you, when you're taking out these screws, if you don't have a good way of organizing them, something I've always done that I've never seen anyone else do, I tend to band my screws that I'm using for a particular place together with a little piece of Scotch tape. Who doesn't have Scotch tape? You wrap it around the screws. You can wrap it tight, loose, however you want, and then you can label them. You can even let it like a little flag hanging off if you don't want it right directed on it. But as you can see, these are all the top cover ones, the long and the 6 long ones and the 1 short one, and I kind of labeled on their top cover, so when I go to reassemble, it's not going to look bad. I did the same thing with those outside ones, that blue screw, and then that hex one, or hex Torx security one. So we are continuing on with the disassembly. So first thing you got to do is begin removing the screws that are holding this into place. Now there's a couple you have to take out. We've got one immediately over here. We've got another one right here. In front we've got one up here. Then we've got 2 on this down portion right here. And then on this side there's nothing. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 total to remove this power supply. The optical drive is actually not held on by anything right now. It's those long screws from the top that provide the pressure to hold that into place. So if you want to, you can actually remove the optical drive right now. It just pulls up. You just have to be careful because it's got all these bands on it. So if we want to, we can just pull out that little clip right here on the side. It's just a standard 4-pin. And then you've got your optical drive right here. The optical drive's pretty basic, and then they've got the little band tape here, so you have to be careful. So if you do want to remove that first, just kind of gently set it off to the side and make sure you don't have anything pinching, like that. So band cable is still plenty loose. It's not under any pressure. It does come kind of like that, crimped up just from the way it was put in factory. Gives you a little bit more room to work. so let's begin taking out these other screws. I think this one might be a micro right here. Yeah, it sure is. Okay, so let's work on the big ones then. We got a big one on the side and another big one on the side. And you should never use power tools to work on these systems. Any power tool does have the risk of accidentally imparting some electricity or static electricity into what you're working on. Okay. Ooh. That's a long boy. Alright, another one. Alright, we're going. There's another one. Alright guys, I'm going to pause you here while I take out these last 3 right here, and then we will remove the power supply. Okay guys, as you can see, we have removed all the screws here. Just one thing to keep in mind, this top one right here is going to be the longer of these 2 small screws. Here's an example. It's really hard to mix them up. It can be confusing though. This tall one right here is the one that comes off the top, which does make sense. This is, quite a bit chunkier right here than this one. There's about 1/4 of an inch difference in between these two. So that little piece right there is going to be the lower end one. And then at the very bottom, you're going to have your screw right there, and that was attaching our little ground right here. You can see that's on there, the little power ground. Alright, so we've got all the screws out. We've got our 2 from the sides. The 2 side ones that were over here are these ones right here. We're going to put those all together with all our screws, and we'll tape those up in just a sec off camera so you guys don't get bored by that. First though, we're going to pull out some of these plugs. We've got right here, this is going to be on the little motherboard right here. You don't have to take that out right now. I'm going to leave it. This is the connection though for the power, so you want to pull that out. I forgot to take the front one out. Well, I had you guys on pause. This is another micro one, that's why I was doing all micros at the end. Alright, just giving us a little trouble. This screw is giving me a little bit of trouble there. Okay, there we go. And it looks different than any of the other ones you've taken off, so you can't really mix it up. It's just a machine screw. Threads all the way to the top. You still want to be careful, even though this is unplugged. You don't want to touch these. I know it looks like I am, but I'm not. I'm really close to them, but I'm not touching them. This is kind of where your power supply plugs into the rest of the system. And then the last thing you want to do before you totally remove this is you can either pull this off the motherboard. This is the connection. Or you can pull it out of the power supply. You do have to be careful though, because it's a very small 3-pin. And there's your power supply. Look how filthy that thing is, guys. This thing hasn't been probably taken out in at least 5-6 years, if not longer. I can't remember the last time I had this thing opened. But we're going to clean that up before we put this all together. I'm not disassembling this any further. I'm just going to use some spray air and kind of get rid of all the gunk that's in there. Nothing in here really to service. There's no point. I do not recommend taking this part at all. You can buy replacements for this. Heck, you could buy a new PS3 for $40-50 right now, used. This one though, if you get in here and you start messing with these coils, you could technically shock yourself. Those do carry power after the system's off, so be very careful. This is kind of dangerous at this point. So leave the shroud on here, be safe guys, and if this is bad, look how easy it is to take off. It takes you 10-15 minutes to bust into here and get everything opened up and replaced. Alright, we're going to put you on pause for just a moment. Alright guys, next step will be to remove the little cover here. This is where the hard drive feeds in from the outside. To remove this, it's just 2 little screws right here, and then that pops out. That does have to come out because that is attached to the shroud that goes over the motherboard. I mean, at this point, you have a couple ways you can go. Clean as you go. Take out any dust you see. I've been wiping it down with some just rubbing alcohol, 70%. And then from here, we're going to start removing more components from the shield so we can get this off. See what's going on. I might take a look at the GPU and CPU paste to see how they're doing. They are pretty old at this point. But we are going to continue on with that. Okay guys, I know I kind of skipped ahead a little bit, but what I did from here was I removed all the screws around this edge. There's 3 over here. This little, this is the wireless, I believe, internet hookup right here. I popped out the little ribbon cable from this. All you have to do is just gently wiggle it back and forth and it'll slide out. Same thing for the ribbon connector over here. And then I did disconnect this one from the board. All you do is this little end right here. As you can see, it's just this little tiny nub. It's on this little piece right here, and you just gently rock it back and forth and it pops off. And then there was 4 screws in the front. I believe there's 3 on this side, 2 over here. There's 2 from that little hard drive cage, and then I removed the 2 we're holding this on as well. This is going to be the board that controls your controller ports. It's right in front of the controller ports, and all it does after you have those out is you gently lift it up and remove. And as you can see, we got some dirt buildup on there because that front portion right there is right over those vents. But other than that, it looks like it's in good shape. It's not too dirty. I don't see any corrosion on here really. That's good news. And then the top, as you can see, there's all the chipsets and everything. It's looking like it's in good shape. Now again, be very careful when you're holding these. You don't want to touch the top. I mean, if you do want to wipe it off with something, use some compressed air, or if you have a little bit of high proof alcohol, like that 70 or 80, 90% isopropyl alcohol, use that. That's the best stuff to use here. You would not want to just wipe this with your hands. Your finger oils get on there and start corroding the gold contacts in the board. And you could potentially bridge something and short it out. And you don't want to do that, because if you short out this, you're going to have to throw out your PS3, and that's a pain. No one wants to do that. So I'm going to pause you guys real quick. We're going to clean this up, and then we're going to move on to the other part of the board and the shroud. Okay guys, next part is going to be removing the shroud right here. All you have to do, I forgot to say this in the last part, is loosen these little support brackets right here. And then you kind of have to pull that and it pops off. Just be very careful, make sure those wires feed back through. There you go guys. This is the heart of the PS3. This is where all that power comes from. As you can see, we do have quite a bit of dust built up in here, so let's get our little Q-tip with some rubbing alcohol, gently wipe away that dust. There we go. We'll get some compressed air in here later. We won't bore you guys with that, but this, this is pretty clean. That shroud did its job. I can see we got a little bit of, looks like thermal paste or something on here. It might have been some glue that they put on the board. Next thing we'll have to do is remove this little connector right here. Just a 3-pin. Be very careful. These things are very delicate connectors. And we'll mop all this up as we go, so we're not doing some cross-contamination with all this dust. Alright, then from here, it really depends on what you want to do. If you want to pull this out further, you can do that. I mean, nothing says you can't. You just have to kind of work your way around here and pop it out, and you'll hear those little pops. And there you go. We're free. Here is the back side. Holy cow, dudes. Whoever did the thermal paste on here, they definitely went on the thinner side, and this is not good quality stuff. It's all crusted up. You can see it's on these little heat spreaders right here. Man, they really did a hack job on that. You can see it right there if I focus. I mean, they put plenty on there, but if it was me, I'm now going to have to clean this up and redo it. As you can see, it's all caked on and burned there. And we'll come back with our new thermal paste, since I do have that since I'm a PC builder. Alright guys, just a sec. Okay guys, we've scrubbed up those areas and we've got everything looking pretty. Here's if we're looking at the very edge. Look at those. So precious. You can see, here's graphics, here's CPU. Got all that nasty stuff off them. There's still a couple little bits we'll get before we put her back in. But in case you thought that thermal paste might still be good like I did at first, I mean, look at this stuff. That's what was coming off. It feels like caulking compound that's hard and cured. It's real brittle. It breaks apart real easy, as you can see. It's not good anymore. I mean, it was a matter of time before this thing overheated, and that's kind of what the issue was here. You're getting some heating issues, and the game system felt like it was running really warm, which is going to affect your performance. Next, we are going to have to get out these thermal spreaders right here. Remove the fan, and then those will be able to come out. These are kind of blocked in here right now. They do feel loose, but they're actually not. It's just how they're held in here. Removing the fan, and then we'll take out those, and we'll make sure everything's clean. I really didn't mean this to be a 20-some minute video, but if you're gonna do a job, you might as well do it right. So we'll pause you guys, and we'll come back. Okay, guys, we took out 1, 2, 3 screws, and after you do that, here's your fan. Now, I thought this fan was going to be filthy, but for not being open for 7 or 8 years, that's actually pretty good. I'm shocked how clean this is. I remember seeing some videos where this thing is just packed full. This is actually a pretty robust little fan here for this system. I know that these little Delta that they put in here, this is made by Delta Electronics. These little brushless ones were noisy, but they lasted a lot longer than the ones they put in the Slims and some of the other models you'll see. Our final step in disassembly, literally, there's only like 2 more things we could do. We could take out our little unit right here, which is where your power will go, and your on-off switch. Don't really need to do that. There's nothing wrong there, so we're going to leave that. And we're going to remove this shroud right here and get out these heat sinks. Alright guys, we popped out the 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. They are, kind of just in the corner. They're really the only screws left in here. If you can't find them, I mean, your system might be slightly different, but on this particular model, there's just 4. And like I said, if you do want to take this out, it's going to come out with this piece anyway. We're just not going to disassemble it. So first thing you'll do is just remove this right here, and at the same time, just lift up a little bit and it'll slide out. And there you go. That's just the back plate. And yeah, you got a little dirt on it. Not too bad. No really reason to go in here. I wouldn't mess with this unless there's something wrong with your power hookup. And then here it goes, guys. We've done it. That is the shroud for the fan and the heat sinks. And very carefully pick up your heat sinks. Here you go. This is the one for the GPU. It's not too bad. It's got a little dirt in there. We'll clean that up. And then sitting on these other pair of thermal pads is the CPU one. This one's actually pretty clean. It's got, you can see a little dust in there, but, and I mean, that's it, guys. We've disassembled the entire PS3 in about 20 some minutes. It's pretty impressive how much stuff they stuff into this box. This is definitely a lot more involved than disassembling an Xbox 360, but I'll come back and we'll show you the reassembly with the new thermal paste on here, and then we'll put her back together and see if she works. Alright guys, so here's the board again, and I'm going to show you how to put the thermal paste on these. So thermal paste on these boards, it's kind of just like working with the CPU. I got a little Arctic ceramic with the non-metal silver on there. It's non-conductive, so you don't have to worry about getting this on the board. But this stuff, you just do a little grain of rice. I learned that from doing my PC, just like that. Then spread it out a little bit through the middle. That's more than enough. And then same thing right here. It's not a grain of rice, it's more like a line. Now if you want to, you can get into, like swirling all around and making it even. I just like to make sure that I got like a little circle after I get my grain or my line down. And then I'm going to put a tiny bit more on that one. That one's a little bit thin. That is all you need, guys. And then all you have to do is put that back on. Yeah, that's definitely what's going on. All right, we're going to pause you while we reassemble. It looks, this time you can see that it's smushed down. All right, guys, we're pausing you again. We'll have this rebuilt when we come back. Alright guys, we are going to try and power up now and see what happens. So, I got my controller right here, and we are going to power her up. And it's just trying to connect. This controller might also, oh no, there it goes, it connected. And let me change the input real quick to the correct channel. I accidentally had it on my Fire Stick. There you go, guys. I didn't even check that beforehand. This is the first startup. As you can see, everything's working good. And it's actually really quiet now. Air's still moving through it. We can feel air coming out. It all looks good. Alright guys, thanks for watching my disassembly video. That was a lot of fun. I will say the PS3 did a good job of marking everything, letting you know where screws go. If you do end up with extra parts, just go back and redo it. You know, it's a thing you only do once every couple of years, and realistically, if I get a couple more, years out of this thing, I'll be happy just so I can play some of the games that I loved on this system. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you next time. This was Matty Ice. Vaya con Dios.